All right. Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon. It depends on where you're watching from. Today is another beautiful day where we discuss the book by Stephen Covey, The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. So today we are going to be uh, discussing the uh, fifth habit of highly effective people, and that habit is seek first to understand, then to be understood. My name is Sylvester, and I want to specially welcome every one of you, to today's stream. And today promises to be a very, very, very special day. I want to say welcome, 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 welcome. So if you are just joining the stream, do well to please um, tell us your name and just share the location, type the location where you are watching us from. Today I have a guest reviewer backstage, and his name is Cephas. He will be joining us shortly. But before then, I think I need to turn this music down so that we can get to the business of the day. So, before we get to the business of the day, I want to remind us of something very special that, if you recall very well, on week 2, we actually discussed the first habit of highly effective people, which is be proactive. Be proactive. And towards the end of that chapter, Stephen Covey recommended a 30-day challenge. I think, let me just do that. Let me share that. Let me share so that we know where we're coming from. I'm going to show us briefly that challenge right now. Okay. So I believe you can see my screen right now. My screen takes you to my blog, and week 1 of 7, week 2 of 7, we talked about being proactive, and the whole update is in my blog. So as you can see right now on the screen, we discussed about proactivity versus reactivity. We talked about the circle of influence. We talked about how we should react to life, and the different uh, key concepts were discussed, like I said, was the circle of concern and the circle of influence. However, there was a challenge that started that day, a 30-day challenge, which we expected that everyone was going to be committed to. Personally, I've been waiting for this day so that I can share with you my experience, that it was a beautiful one. What was the challenge? We said, okay, number 1, simply try and see what happens. For 30 days, work only in your circle of influence. Be a light in your circle of influence, means the things you actually have control over. Then be a light, not a judge, and set an example instead of being a critic. Admit, correct, and learn from mistakes promptly. So for the past 30 days, I have deliberately been pushing myself to ensure that I endeavor to see only good, that I am proactive, that I do not try to see only evil or bad in people. It hasn't been an easy one, but then it has helped to put subconsciously, every time I want to say something or do something, I remember that I am trying to push myself to get better in this area. So I hope that we have other people with such experience too, and that you would share your story with us. So having said that, guys, I would like to now take us through where we are currently in the book. This is the 7 habits of highly effective people. Remember, we started with part 1, which is the paradigms and principles. And then we proceeded to part 2 that talked about the private victory, be proactive, habit 1, begin with the end in mind, habit 2, put first things first, habit 3. And that marked the end of the part two, which is the private victory. And just last week, we started the public victory, which Genero took us through the think, win, win principle of interpersonal leadership. And today we have someone very special who is going to through the principles of empathetic communication, which is habit five, which says seek first to understand, then to be understood. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me make welcome Mr. Cephas. Cephas is here, and very quickly, I would like to introduce Cephas to you. Cephas is Onwuliri. Cephas is an avid reader. He's a tech enthusiast, and he's a life learner. And everything that describes him here is something I can vouch for. I know him personally. He was one of my students at Admiralty University, a very, very outstanding one at that. And throughout his undergraduate years at Admiralty University of Nigeria, he demonstrated leadership as one of the pioneer members of the book club we established then for students and staff of the university, the Adun Library Luminary Leaders Book Club, where he fostered a culture of intellectual engagement and community building. So, ladies and gentlemen, those of you watching, if you are here, please help me celebrate and welcome Cephas Onwuliri. Cephas, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Sylvester. How are you doing, sir?
I'm fine. Thank you very much. And how are you today?
I'm very fine.
All right. I really am happy to have you here because
Thank you, sir.
I know how much a lot of work you did for the library club then. And I said, no, we must have you here to review this book with us. Thank you so much for finding out time for this, Cephas.
Thank you, sir.
So, Cephas, please pardon me. I would like to share the video of the last habit we did with our audience so that
Okay.
they can understand properly before we go into these habits. So we didn't play that video the last time. So I'm going to play a short video, less than 1 minute, that talks about the think win-win mentality. So let's take a look at this video.
Now, imagine you're an author, and I'm an author, and we both write interesting books, and we both have access to an audience of about 100,000 people. I read your book, and I love it, so I decide to share it with my audience, and as a result, you now have thousands of people buying your book and reading your ideas. You see this and think, who is this guy? Let me take a look at his book. You start reading my book and think I have ideas that are valuable, so you decide to share it with your audience. And as a result, I now have thousands of people buying my book and reading my ideas. Notice how different this is from my creating a little creepy Amazon account, finding your book and leaving a bad review, hoping that this will deter a few people from buying your book, which will in turn somehow get them to buy my book. Habit number 4 is think, win, win. Stop thinking of everything as a zero-sum game. For you to win, another person does not have to lose. Now, imagine you're an author, and I'm an author, and we both write interesting.
So thank you so much. You see, that illustration there is a very wonderful one that properly describes what the fourth habit actually truly represent. Think, win, win. Okay, so this is what we did the last time. So please pardon me, Cephas. Let me fast forward to habit number 5. Can you see my screen, Cephas?
Yes, sir. I can.
Okay. So at this point, I'd like to say welcome. This is habit 5, and we are here to briefly review it. So over to you, Cephas. Like usually, what we do is the purple highlighters are areas of the book where we read. So if you would oblige us, please could you help us read this part of the book and let's learn
All right.
together.
Definitely. Suppose you're having trouble with your eyes and you decide to go to an optometrist for help. After briefly listening to your complaints, he takes off his glasses and hands them to you. Put this on, he says. I've worn this pair of glasses for 10 years now, and they've really helped me. I have an extra pair at home. You can wear these. So you put them on, but it only makes the problem worse. This is terrible, you're saying. I can't see a thing. Well, what's wrong? They work great for me. Try harder. I am trying, you insist. Everything is a blur. What's the matter with you? Think positive. Okay, I positively can't see a thing. Boy, you are ungrateful, he chides. After all I've done to help you, what are the chances that you go back to that optometrist next time? Not very good, I imagine.
Exactly.
You don't you don't have much confidence in who doesn't diagnose before he or she prescribes. But how often do we diagnose before we prescribe in communication?
Wow, wow. Thank you so much. That's a question that everyone needs to answer. So I think let's share this here. Let me take this other illustration, this other story here. I'm going to read this part, and then we come back into discussing what this whole chapter it's all about. So here's another scenario. Come on, honey, tell me how you feel. I know it's hard, but I'll try to understand. Oh, I don't know, mom. You think it was stupid? Of course I wouldn't. You can tell me. Honey, no one cares for you as much as I do. I'm only interested in your welfare. What's making you so unhappy? Oh, I don't know. Come on, honey. What is it? Well, to tell you the truth, I just don't like school anymore. What? You respond incredulously. What do you mean you don't like school? And after all the sacrifices we've made for your education, education is the foundation of your future. If you'd apply yourself like your older sister does, you'd do better and then you'd like school. Time and time again, we've told you to settle down. You've got the ability, but you just don't apply yourself. Try harder. Get a positive attitude about it. Pause. Now, go ahead. Tell me how you feel. So, Cephas, every time I read this book, I sometimes wonder if, so I'm like, is it that the kind of parents we have in Africa here, we also have them abroad? Because
Exactly.
this story is a story of a Western parent, right?
Yeah, yes.
So I'm like, because he kept using some of the stories, and when I look at the stories and then I bring it to the Nigerian setting, I'm like, this is what a
Very
Nigerian
much,
would really do.
yes, very much relatable. Very much relatable.
Oh my goodness. So Cephas, we would want you to share insights with us, but let's just play this final video, and then you take over the floor to share insights with us about lessons we can draw from this habit.
Something I want my viewers to do is to subscribe to my channel. But you will never hear me say, well, I worked really hard, guys. I dedicated so many hours to this. Please subscribe. Look, who cares if I worked hard? Who cares if I've spent days creating this video? The real questions are, does it offer value to you? And why should you dedicate your time to subscribing when you could be doing anything else that you want? Habit number 5 is something that I try to use every single day with every interaction that I have and with every comment that I reply to, and it is this: seek first to understand, then to be understood.
Thank you. Thank you. So Cephas, what do you think? This book.
Oh,
Yeah.
the story, the first two set of stories, really give much insight to what the whole chapter is about. Well, personally, when I was reviewing this chapter, and normally Stephen Covey, he gives a quote before he goes into the chapter
Exactly.
properly. Yeah, and the quote he gave here was so deep. Let me read it. Let me take out one thing. He said, "The heart has its reasons. which reason knows not of. Hmm. Now,
Mm.
that's a very interesting statement. Now, that statement
Yes.
was stated by a man who was an architect, a philosopher, Blaise Pascal. And what he was
Mm.
trying to say there was a very great disconnect. He was trying to identify the disconnect between the hearts of human beings and the logic or the head of human beings.
Mm.
Now,
Exactly.
the first story that we're considering here, as I mean, both of us we use glasses, so we've all been to an optometrist, and so this can be very
Exactly.
relatable. I mean, imagine
I'm
going
telling
and
you.
saying, "I'm having an eye problem," and then the man gives you his own and says, "Go with it." Now,
I've been
definitely, there's a 90 point something% chance that we're never going to go back there. Why? Because a
never.
core issue of our hearts wasn't addressed, and that is why Stephen Covey says, "Seek first to understand before being understood." Now, why
Exactly.
why why is this so important? He in the chapter he says something. He says communication is the most important skill in life.
Mm.
I found that very, very riveting.
Yes.
Very, I mean,
Exactly. Yeah.
it's challenged my perception because I mean, those of us in my field, um, they
Mm.
tell us code. You have to know how to program. You have to know how to code. But
Exactly.
and I had to think about that statement, and I discovered that human beings are relational, right? Human beings we relate with
Yes.
other humans, right? No matter how gifted you are, if you can't properly articulate how you feel, you're at a loss. And on the other hand,
Mm.
no matter how great you think you are, if you can't understand what someone is trying to,
People.
a message someone is trying to pass, you are also at a loss. Are we following? So now,
Yes.
in that says we've spent a lot of time learning how to read and write, and yes, learning how to speak. He gives four bases of communications: reading, speaking, reading, and listening.
Mm.
And the core of understanding, remember the whole thing is trying to get to understand how the person feels, trying to understand what a person is trying to communicate. That can only be done with listening. And it's quite
Mm.
unfortunate that really there's no course in the university. I don't know about now, but in the university there's no course on learning how to listen. So that's what this chapter is basically trying to let us know. And you know for someone that reads, there's something called active and passive listening, which is actually a technique that people teach to, make individuals know how to manipulate other people. And this is why many Africans, this is the reason I believe many Africans don't trust therapists, because they believe that
Yeah.
therapy is those people that learns how to listen without properly
Mm.
listening. Oh, now let me explain what I said. In the book, Stephen Covey said something. He said there are people who have not had any training at listening, and there are people who have had training in listening. And for the most part, their training was done without character, without any emphasis laid on the character of the person. That is the person that is being
Mm.
trained to listen, and without any emphasis given to the relationship between the two individuals. Once once we take out these two things, character of a person and the
Yeah.
relationship factor between the person you are listening to, it becomes sort of a manipulative game, right? It becomes
Mm.
sort of a,
Yeah.
I just want to get to know your secret. I just want a win-lose situation, if it the way Habit 4 will
Mm.
put it. Yeah, it's just a
Exactly.
way
Yeah. Before.
just a way of trying to manipulate people to get what you want. So the essence of this
Mm.
habit that makes human beings much more effective is this: we should learn to properly articulate what someone is saying and make them feel understood before we share our own points of view. Yes,
Yeah.
there was something. Yeah, there were three steps he gave to do this, and it's
Okay.
not all about stating the problem, but how do we get the solution? He gave three major steps, and he took it from Greek philosophy, which I find very interesting. He says the
Mm.
Greeks they consider three main things: ethos, pathos, and logos. Ethos is where we get the word ethics from. So it's really like your character. So you must have a very solid character base before you try to understand
Mm.
someone first. And pathos, you must try to um, relate with the feelings of the person, and the last thing, logic. This is where you present your own point of view.
Of
Now,
you. Yeah.
before, yeah, I'm just trying to now. Let me say this. In a business setting, you will have two competing offers, right? And I have a contract, and I have two, contractors bringing in their offers and their quotations and all that. The person that seeks to understand what my needs, my desires, is the person that is much more likely to get it. So, and of the two
Exactly.
contractors, it can only be gotten from the person that listens most. This is why listening, from this chapter, we can infer that listening is the most important of all communication skills, because you're bringing up the person that I get what you're feeling. You're telling this person, I can relate with what you're relating. I have the solution to your problems. That's why he would say good, a difference between a good salesman and an amateur salesman is that an amateur salesman tries to sell products, but a good salesman really, what he sells is solutions. This is why you see, if you go to some car dealerships, the first thing they'll do is they'll try to understand, the kind of car you want to buy, and then to take it even further, they'll
Yes.
say, okay, they'll tell you this category of cars here don't fit what you want, what you are describing. They may even take you to
Exactly.
the one that has that the price tags are higher. And very interesting, they will not tell you to test drive the car. So
I'm telling
after you
you.
finish driving the car and you see that, oh, it suits your specs ahead, that you now release your money. So really, it's all about
Exactly.
this chapter is all about listening with people with empathy, with
Mm.
listening to make them understand that I feel what you are feeling. I get what you are passing through, and I can see where you are
Yeah.
coming from. Not necessarily just as the story you read earlier on. The mother just started judging her child, like, mom,
From
from the beginning,
after
from the beginning.
pretending to be the listening type, and that's
Yes,
where Stephen Covey says that listening is not a technique. You
yes,
understand?
yes,
It's not a technique. It should be empathetic, and that's the
yes,
empathetic listening. That strategy that he's recommending. For instance, he said those four basic forms of communication. There's reading, there's writing, there's speaking. We go to
yes.
different schools to learn this thing, but there's something Stephen mentioned in the book. He said, but um, we rarely
Listen.
learn how to listen. Do you
Yes,
understand? So
yes,
everybody, we go to school, we learn how to talk, we learn how to write, we learn how to read, but nobody learns how to listen, and that's the most important thing. So you're
yes,
on point. Thank
yes.
you. Yeah, please go ahead.
So
So,
you can see from what you say, from the addition you just made, sir, that listening is really the key to understanding the
mm,
point of view someone is
mm,
saying. Now, I don't want to sound all
exactly.
religious or so, but reflecting on this, there's somewhere in a scripture, a holy book that says a holy book,
Yeah.
not a holy book
Mm,
that says a counsel is much in the heart of a man, but really is a man of
exactly.
understanding that will draw it out.
Mm,
So, and you can never get to the point of understanding if you cannot listen and listen well.
mm,
And it's very
yeah.
something. So I started asking myself, okay, it's all about listening, right? But to be
Yeah.
honest, first, before we go to how to even listen or the stages of listening, it's who has your time, like, for crying out loud.
Exactly.
In everybody's minding their own business, everyone has their own issues. Like, why would I want to take time to listen to you? But here's the catch:
Mm,
you know,
mm,
giving a quick fix, giving a prescription without first properly diagnosing one's problem, just as Stephen Covey would put it,
mm,
only buys us
yeah.
time for the meantime. But at the end,
Exactly.
it will show. But if we properly sit to listen and get where an individual is coming from, at the end of the time, it will be way much better. And he gives a story, a very interesting story. In the book, there was this man. He had a contract, he already signed contract with a bank. He was supposed to supply
Mm,
them with some software, a computer software, and for some reason they changed CEOs, and the bank executives, they were not so keen on the app anymore, and they were like, let's do away
mm,
with this. Let's do away with this app. Let's do away with this. And the man was like, okay, he wanted to get done with this, but he thought of it. Let me understand from this people's point of view, and he parted with it. But later on, later on, later on, the new CEO came back and said, okay, from this understanding, let's work. And he gave him a higher contract. The reason for this was that the man at first he got to understand from the perspective of the CEO, the new CEO, and where the bank
Exactly.
was,
Mm,
where it was
mm,
coming from. So, in I believe in all our human relationship and communications around, we should first tend to listen
mm.
before any other thing. If we can listen and tell people and reaffirm that, and properly reaffirm that we understand where those people are coming from, and tell them that we, and not just as a technique, but something that comes out from our hearts, something that we are empathetic about, right?
Yeah,
I believe that
yeah,
our world will
yeah.
be a much more better place, and so many relationship issues will be on the low.
Exactly. Yeah, just to add, there's something I just felt to say because Stephen Covey says what we usually do most times is we tend to seem to like we just like that lady and a child, like we are listening, but then we already have things in our mind while we are having conversation with people most times. Some of us already we have this conversation with the intention to speak, right?
Mm,
And not with the
mm,
intention to even listen. Okay, and that's
yes.
where we really get it wrong. So let's say somebody invites you now to speak to you about their problems, and then at that where we start giving these. What do you think about these autobiographical responses part of the book? Because some of us we just have a thinking a thought already in our mind that we must, okay, yes, this is what I want to say, this is my own experience. Before the person starts telling you their problem, you have replied him by saying, yes, I've been there before, let me tell you my experience. Now this
Mm,
person is just coming to see you to discuss with you about his experience or challenges, but instead you've cut that person short and you did not let the person express himself. So today we are trying to emphasize that one habit that can make you stand out to be a very effective person is if we cultivate that habit of seeking first to understand before then we get understood.
mm,
So
yes.
I don't know. Yeah.
Now, the four, there are four, Stephen Covey puts it, autobiographical responses that individuals give. For example, or me, the way I would put it for better understanding is the preconceived perceptions that all individuals have. You may not even know you have it, but for example, this happens between myself and my siblings. My sister will just come to tell me an issue, and many times I notice that really what she wants is just she just wants to talk, and she just wants me to listen. But me on the other hand, I'm already giving her a solution that don't do this, do this, do this. Right. Even when I didn't intend to do that, I was already wired, to respond like that. So first off, these are preconceived conceptions that we have, and he gives four ways that we can break out of this loop, break out of these patterns. And the first
Mm.
way the first way I believe he said was that we should, sorry, excuse me, was that we should actually tell the people that, hey, I took a course, I'm trying to learn how to be a better listener to understand what you're saying, so please run again what you're saying. And then the first step he gives is that we should actually repeat what they said. You
Exactly.
repeat what they said. So for example, if someone comes to you that I feel I hate my boss. Like I want to leave my job. I'm tired of my work. So
Exactly. Yes.
instead of you saying, why not apply for a job 10 a resignation letter, instead saying, wow, really, you hate your job, you hate your boss, you want to, repeating what the person says. Yes. And
Exactly. It makes them feel that you're with them and you're listening
yes,
with them. Do you
yes,
know that some people, immediately you say, I hate my boss, what some people
yes,
will tell you is, you have not met my boss.
yes.
So they will
You
start
don't know
telling
that
you their
man.
own problems.
Yes.
So they won't listen to what has this somebody that came to you for a problem. So that's why there's need for us to diagnose. Yeah, please
Yes.
go ahead. Please.
So the very first thing to get people to know that we actually understand them is that we should listen we should listen and repeat what they are saying. And at times it helps to rephrase the statement, what they said,
Mm,
rephrase it to see, okay,
mm,
for example, he said, I hate my boss. He doesn't recognize everything I do. You can say, okay, you hate your boss because he doesn't recognize everything you do, or he doesn't seem to recognize your efforts at work. Then
mm.
if we rephrase what the person said at first, it would be like, okay, the person would be like, we're getting to a point here. And the third step that we can give, that the third, autobiographical response that we can break out of, the third way we can break out of that, is that we show empathy. We show empathy, that we really care. This is where our
Exactly. Yeah.
emotions, this is where our emotions, what
Mm,
this is where our emotions comes in. If we reach this third point, which is very hard for individuals, including myself, if we can reach this third point, where we are making use of both our logical side and, our the left hand side of our brains and the right hand side, our creative and our very logical side.
yes.
If we can get
Yes.
to that point and respond, then we know we've gone a very long way. This is the point where we can now chip in our own opinion. But now, what it does, that the person's wall of defense has been reduced. He now tends to see things from your own
Exactly.
perspective. And at times we may not
Mm,
even need to put in our own opinion, because at times you see they'll start solving the problems by themselves. Really, people just want to feel like they are affirmed. Is a he There was something very
exactly.
important he mentioned. There are four rewards that people, he mentioned this in the book. I don't know if it's in this chapter. I said individuals want financial rewards. Another very important reward
Yes.
for individuals is is psychological rewards, where individuals would love to, you know to be affirmed. So if we give them that space, that we are
Exactly.
people that value them, that show them that they contain intrinsic value, you know
Yes.
while really giving them a way to, reach out to the solution they so much crave for.
Exactly.
Okay.
So thank you so much. I believe we can't overflog this topic. I believe some people are just joining now. I see some people joining us live now. I see Nuru from Admiralty University. I see Blessing Okpa from Lagos. I see also Christabel is also behind the scene, also providing some support. So I want to say thank you to everyone that's watching right now. But very quickly, just to summarize everything we're saying, because it's exactly 30 minutes now and we need to start rounding up this session. So, the very important message here is that this habit five, stick first to understood, then to understand, then to be understood. Knowing how to be understood, it is the other half of habit five, and is equally critical in reaching win-win solutions. You agree with me now, Stephens?
Yes.
There's no
uh,
way you
uh,
can reach a win-win solution if you are
yes.
not listening to what the other person actually really wants in
Wants
your
to.
your deal or negotiation that you guys are going
Yes.
into. So you see,
Yes.
these whole principles, they all complement each other. You can't, one needs one to actually survive. And that's why I think there's one part that I highlighted that says that the first part of the second part of this book, which is that private victory, if you have not understood that and personalized it, this part of the book that has to do with interaction with
Complete.
and relationship with others, you will
Yeah.
fail. And why will you fail? You fail because it might be difficult for you to bring yourself down to want to listen to people. Because according to
Yeah.
Stephen Covey, it's not an easy task at all.
Hmm.
It makes you feel vulnerable. I don't know if you read something like that.
Yes. Yes.
When
Yes,
you
sir.
start listening to people, it makes you feel vulnerable. Maybe you even have work to do, you have things to do, but you just sit down and listen to them, show them empathy, repeat what they say and all that, give them time. Not everybody has that time. It is only those who have excelled in the area of their private victory that can
Yeah.
proceed to exhibit these habits. So I don't
Yes.
know, as we come towards the end, Mr. Cephas, don't know if you have some other final words before we now take the application suggestions.
No, no, not at all. Not at all, sir.
Okay, so we have some of these suggestions on the screen. I don't know. Do you have something to say about them? Because the first one here that recommended, it says that we should select a relationship in which you sense the emotional bank, what you've deposited in that emotional bank, the impressions you've made to people around you, it's red. Then try to understand and write down the situation from the other person's point of view. Then in your next interaction, listen for understanding this time, not the usual way you would usually respond. Compare it with what you are hearing, comparing what you are hearing with what you wrote down, and try to see how valid were your assumptions. I mean, the assumptions we made earlier. I don't know if
Yes.
you follow me, Cephas.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so I'm going to be sharing. I'm going to be sharing these application suggestions with those who are in the upskill community. If you're watching this video right now, please check the YouTube video description, and you'll see the link to join the upskill community, where you have access to these application suggestions to apply one of them. So I'm going to
Yes.
read.
Ye- Yes.
Oh, okay, you want to say something? Please go ahead.
Yes. While studying these habits, there's something that came to my mind that really helped me to know how to implement this in my own personal life. And is this saying that no one cares for what you know, except they know that you care. So before we try
Wow.
to pass our own point of view, or we should let the other person see, genuinely feel that know that we genuinely care about them. Then we can have
Exactly.
much more successes in our relationships. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So I think let me just ask you one final question. Now,
Okay.
these habits seek first to understand, then to be understood. In what cases do you think we should actually apply this? Should it be just in our families or with our interactions with our friends? Where do you think? Give us some examples of places where you think we can apply this habit.
First off, in every relationship with a human being, you need it because we are going to be communicating with people. So in every relationship with a human being, you need to know how to apply it. But it should primarily be with our family first. Family
Mm,
first. Because that's your very first, let me say, circle of influence before
mm.
the outer world. And is first primarily should be in the family, but is applicable in every single relationship that we have.
Wow. Wow, thank you so much. So, and just to add to that, if you find yourself in a workplace, this is very important. This is what brings about a lot of problems in workplaces today. Nobody wants to listen. Everybody just wants to be heard. They want to give their opinion. If you find even as far as WhatsApp groups, small church groups, or any kind of groups, everybody wants to speak, but nobody wants to listen
Yes.
to know the situation. So at the end of today's video, we are asking everyone to try to cultivate the habit of seeking to listen empathetically before we try to even communicate what's in our mind. Because there's no way you can influence others, according to Stephen Covey, without being what? Influenced yourself.
Yes.
So thank you so much once again, Mr. Cephas. I want to
Thanks.
say thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us in today's session. We look
Yes, sir.
forward to next weekend, where we are going to be dealing with the sixth habit of highly effective people. And then next 2 weeks, we are going to be coming to this 8-week review for of Stephen Covey's book. It hasn't been easy, but I'm glad we're here
You're
now.
right.
Thank
Yes,
you
sir.
so very much for finding time for this. I'm grateful.
Yes, sir.
God bless
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome.
All right. So everyone who's watching, we will be leaving right now. Thank you. After now, please drop your comments in the replay video. Come back and watch the replay video and let us know what you think about these habits. So from me, it's good night and God bless you. Bye.